When I was around 5 months pregnant, my boyfriend and I got into a serious argument. The yelling back and forth escalated into him shoving me. When he apologized, I told him, "You didn't just shove me. You shoved your little boy as well." One day in early November, it hit me that I hadn't had my period since September. I went to a clinic right away, took a test, and got a big fat positive result I was hoping for. I was so overjoyed with emotions, not to mention in shock and even a bit scared. I shoved the test stick in my bag and made my way to my boyfriend's house, which was a short walk away from the clinic. I felt like my feet weren't touching the ground, like I was floating on a cloud the entire way there. I was all giddy and excited to surprise him with the news. He was surprised all right, but it wasn't the good kind of surprise. I thought the pregnancy would immediately bring us even closer together from that day onwards. I wish things went as well as we talked about, but sadly, that isn't what happened at all. We started fighting a lot more over just about everything. I ended up leaving my old job because I was too sick from the pregnancy to work. Around the same time, my jobless boyfriend irresponsibly decided to drop out of school. We were both supposed to be graduating that year. I reminded him about how not having a diploma or at least something equivalent will ruin his future. But he didn't seem to care. We just couldn't get along like before. Our relationship was going downhill fast. I hoped that by knowing the gender of our baby, the pregnancy might seem more real to him, compared to only seeing me tired and agitated before, and that our relationship would finally get better. But I was completely wrong. As soon as we found out we were having a boy, he acted indifferent, even annoyed that he had to be there. At that moment, I wanted to cry, but I had to keep it together for our baby. I needed to be strong. When I was around 5 months pregnant, we got into a serious argument. "I don't want to talk about this anymore," I said. "No, I am not letting this go. We are talking this through," he yelled back. I tried to leave his house, but he blocked the door and covered the handle with his hand, so I couldn't leave. I tried moving my hand on the door, but he would just push it away and yell some more. He was getting scary, and I really just wanted to leave. After a few more attempts of reaching the door, he started to shove me. Each time I would shout, "Stop!" he would just keep doing it. His mom had to finally come down to stop the fighting. When she left the room, he apologized. I didn't have much to say to him except to tell him, "You didn't just shove me. You shoved your little boy as well." I ended up running to my friend's house and told her what just happened. I decided to get the cops involved. We didn't really speak to each other much after that, but slowly we found our way back to each other. I mean, he is the father of my baby and all. Things weren't too bad, but they were definitely on and off. We both realized we clearly weren't ready for what we decided to do months back, and what lay in front of us. We felt that the best outcome would be to give our baby up for adoption. I thought we had quite some time ahead of us to think the adoption through, but at 25 weeks pregnant, I started having what I thought was Braxton Hicks, practice contractions. The next day, I went for my regular pregnancy checkup, and when I told my doctor about the pain, she checked me down there, looked up at me, and said calmly, "I'm going to send you to the hospital because you were dilated and I can see the bag of water." Dilated? At 25 weeks? Is that even possible? I can't possibly give birth to my son at 25 weeks. Panic, fear, worry, these emotions on a constant loop in my mind as we drove to a hospital an hour away from where I lived that could deal with premature babies. The doctor informed my boyfriend and I that our baby would have a 50% chance of survival if he arrived right now. Fortunately, that didn't happen. I did, however, spend 3 weeks on bed rest, during which I had to deal with, "I don't get to spend time with you, and there's never anything to do here." Blah, 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 constant nagging. It was just so rude and disrespectful of him. The night our son arrived, he wasn't there, which was a blessing as I didn't want him there. It was such a beautiful moment, but my poor baby was taken away right after I gave birth. I could only touch his arm, then he had to be rushed off and connected to a breathing tube. He was born at 28 weeks exactly. With him being born prematurely, I had to call off the whole adoption thing. I mean, if I would have gone through with it, I'd be in the picture building a bond with him until he was well enough to go with his family. It would be impossible to part ways after that. And even if I wasn't required to stay and care for him, I wasn't just going to leave him in the hospital and walk out like it never happened. This little boy needed me. I could just feel it. After 4 long and difficult months of our son being in the newborn intensive care unit, he was finally able to come home. Me being hopeful again, I thought that things between my boyfriend and I would get better now that the super stressful times were behind us. Then, one day, he comes over to my house to see me and the baby. I was telling him how tired I am, that I don't even have time to take a shower on some days from taking care of our son around the clock. He suggested that I have a nice long shower and said he'd watch over our son. Wow, I thought, maybe he is coming around. And then I realized I had just left him in the same room with our son's money bank. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I had this strong gut feeling I couldn't ignore to check the bank. So when he left, I counted the money. $50 was gone. Still, I didn't want to assume anything. Maybe I spent it and forgot to account for it. But I did end up asking his mom to ask him. The next day, he came over and gave me the missing money back. He stole from his own kid. I couldn't believe it. That was really the last straw for me. He has never helped out financially, not even $1. So I finally decided to file for child support. Showing him the papers wasn't easy, and all he said was, "This is going to ruin my life." Seriously? Ruin his life? What about my life, our son's life? What about the promises and what he said he would do for me? I'm glad I stood up for myself and our son and got him to finally take responsibility for what we started together. As you can see, not all things in life go as planned. Despite the betrayal and disappointment, I'm trying to be the best version of myself and provide the best life I can give to our son.